my husband.
So we're with Amy Kolquist. Beastie is the screenplay. Sorry, I just threw that at you. I just pressed record and
That's
you're
all right.
like, yeah. So, okay, great script, by the way. It's a coming of age horror script. Is that a best way to describe it?
That's how I describe it. Yes.
That's a great way because it's like you're kind of mixing genres and you think it's one thing and then it becomes a horror film, I guess.
Yes. 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 So it's yeah, it's just the two together and a girl trying to grow up in the middle of a kind of a horrifying situation with her family, and then I threw in some werewolves just for some fun. Why wouldn't you?
Who's scarier, the werewolves or the Christian nationalist family?
The Christian nationalists. Yeah. So that was part of it too. I wanted to kind of examine the idea of what is really the beast in the movie. So and how does that all work together? So yeah, so that's what it's about. But it was a lot of fun to write.
Are you afraid you're going to offend a certain population?
Um, I wrote the story just from where it was, and I think take it for what it is. The intention isn't to offend. The intention is definitely um just to kind of explore how dehumanization is kind of working right now, I think, with people, and it's very become very easy to dehumanize, I think, in this day and age, something that we don't necessarily agree with or something we don't understand. And sort of the idea of, when something doesn't coincide with our beliefs, how are we looking at that, and how are we viewing that, and how are we pushing that on other people. So I think that's more the intention of the movie. And so, I mean, if people get offended by it, that's definitely not the intention, but maybe they could watch a different movie, I
Well, to,
suppose.
to let you know, I'm not offended at all. So,
Well, I appreciate that, thank you. Yeah. I mean, I'm certain that there's some people who it's not for. So that's the beauty of writing, though, right?
so that's the kind of underlying theme of your film, like dehuman. What do you mean by dehumanization? Like, what's your definition of that?
So if you look just sort of even at the history, and I do a lot of work even with the history of slavery in our country, and with the history of just how we sort of allow ourselves to dehumanize someone, to turn them into what allows us allows us to be comfortable with how we treat them, right? And so when we talk about dehumanizing, it's sort of taking away the human qualities. And when you look back into the history of slavery, and when you look back at how people, sort of that was tolerated and allowed, it was because it was okay. This person is really not human. They're more beast-like. They're than they are human. And so I think that we continue to do that with populations now. And whether the intention is there or not, that's the way that you can get away with saying, okay, I don't agree with you, but you're not really human. So you need to, in order to make me comfortable in my skin, I'm gonna make you uncomfortable in yours, sort of.
And it's there's a removal from it too, right? Where you
Yeah.
don't, yeah, they don't really know. Like, say someone who's trans, for example, somebody in middle America, maybe they do, but basically they don't know this population, so that it's easier for them to dehumanize them for because they don't know, right?
Right, right. And I think that's why
Hmm.
I played with the idea of the isolation too. I think there's a and just the extremism views is just, there's a lot of oppression, I think, in extremities. And so even when you look at the where they are in the extreme with the weather and with the location, and but with also with beliefs, and it becomes very oppressive over time. So I think and I think then when you are isolated, it is harder to see through the trees, really, right? I mean, you just kind of know what you know. And so that was a part of it too, is what happens when somebody is in this isolated and knows they want something different, but have absolutely no idea how to
Yeah,
get out, because there's just so many obstacles. And even part of the obstacle is there something different out there?
100%. But this character is a really interesting character because, well, there's she's very brave, of course, for like making this choice, right?
Yeah.
And there's an instinct, I guess, that we maybe somebody has, maybe we all have it, that something doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
Not to, not to try to sound flaky or anything like that, but I think that we all kind of have that a feeling sometimes, right? Where like, okay, my family doesn't. This something's off here.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know different, but I know there's something other than this, you
Yeah.
know. And so, and that's with her. That's her. And she's had these tiny little glimpses that, maybe there is something out there. And I think that's why there's that one teacher that she sort of had that showed her a little bit different. And she's just sort of grasping onto that straw, but doesn't. I also wanted that hopeless feeling of I know I want something, but I don't know how to get it. Like how do you make that happen for yourself, especially when you're a 17-year-old girl in the middle of nowhere, right?
And then you
Uh,
throw in the supernatural, right?
yes, yes, exactly. Then you got to throw in some werewolves, which would end up being who would think that they would be the saviors, or one of them anyway.
But they're toxic themselves, though, right?
They're very toxic. Yes. Um, so that family also is very toxic in that. And I wanted to explore that too, just that idea of you have these two families, but they're technically, when it comes down to it, more supportive of the choices, but they're also kind of in this desperate situation where they found themselves having to get out of a situation themselves, and so it's two desperate situations kind of thrown together, and they definitely are toxic. Particularly, I think, again, just sort of seeing what is the role of the brothers in both families and how do they function, and sort of the idea of the alpha. I wanted a little bit of an alpha dominance type of thing in the werewolf family, and so that comes out with them.
So when did you like come up with this idea? Where did this idea spawn from?
It was one of those. It was after the election. And so there was a lot of just emotion, I think, in everyone, including myself at that time, just whether, wherever you landed on either side of that, I think there was just so much heightened emotion. And I was actually out walking my dogs in December. And if you do any outdoor wooded area walking in the winter, it's the perfect feel for isolation. And so there's just the sun hits just right, and it doesn't matter how close you are to civilization, it's just creepy. And so you're always out there. And so I was just out there with them, and I always have had these thoughts of what's out there with my dogs. We flushed out a mountain lion once, and that was a little, so you always are wondering what's around you. And um I don't honestly know. I was just walking and thought of the idea of werewolves, and I think the scene really with Mara where she first gets attacked sort of started playing in my mind. And I didn't know exactly what I was playing with, but I hadn't written a screenplay in a long time. I'd been switched over to sort of novels and and blog postings, and I came home and I didn't even have my screenwriting software anymore, and I got some screenwriting software. I just downloaded a sample to see what happened, and within about 20 minutes I was through my 10-page trial and said, well, I guess I got to purchase the software. And so I got faded, and
That's
I
funny.
just started going. And so the first story really came out just with Mara and her family, and that was the first draft, and it just sort of came out quickly. And I think all of the elements came together just from some of the things that had been going on in my mind. Um, and there it was. And so I love the West. I love writing about the West. I just think it's a fascinating area. So it just sort of fell together.
Well, you've written in the past, right?
Yes.
And so
Yes.
what? So you have two produced films that you've done?
Yes. I've done Border Run, and then I've done Amnesiac. Border Run with Sharon Stone's in that, and then Amnesiac has Kate Bosworth in that. So I was hired on as a second writer for both of those.
Okay.
Yeah. So those were not my original scripts.
No. But you like like that happens all the time, though,
Yeah,
right? It
exactly.
could
Yeah.
happen to you with this script, right? Unfortunately, maybe.
Well, if it goes anywhere, I'd like to stay with it. I like these guys a
No,
lot. They're a lot of fun for me to write.
but it's a very common thing, right? Where like
Yes.
Because
Yes.
there's different moving parts. You get a different director, then you get
Yep.
producer, and then you have different stars. Everybody's got their hands in the cookie jar, right? So
Exactly. Yeah, I was brought in, and I think a lot of why I was brought in is because I am a female writer. They both have very strong female leads,
yeah.
and I like to write action. They're both sort of they have that element to them, and so I think I had been working on another project that was my original that never actually it did end up getting made with the producers, and so they asked if I would come in as a second writer on these other two projects to help support some of the writing on those. So that's how I got put onto those. So that was a lot of fun too. I learned a lot.
So what? Why did you not write screenplays for a long time?
I had another idea, and it really I sort of wanted to try a novel because I'd done some novel writing. And it was such a big idea trying to put it into a screenplay wasn't there, so I just wanted to write that story, and so I did do that. It did get some awards as well, but has never actually been made. I have pitched it out, and but that one, it's the part of the nature of the business, but it got some awards as well. So but it's a pretty complex story, pretty big, and so I didn't have it narrowing that down to a screenplay didn't work for me at all. So I wanted to write that whole story and get that out there. And then I started doing a lot of blogging with my husband, and was doing a lot of that writing. We have a blog post that we do together, and living with multiple sclerosis, so and cooking. And so I did that, and then all of a sudden one day I said, I think I want to write a screenplay again, like I said, and came home and started doing it.
You're
So I
back
just
on it.
like to write. I like to write.
Yeah, you like to. But I was just curious if there is that makes sense. So you just like to write, but then how does it feel when you're got like you said you did the first 10 pages? Did it feel like invigorating to get back in the screenwriting game?
It was so much fun. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's my style. I definitely that's there's just the style of screenwriting is very different, and that's how I love writing that format when I do it, and it's a lot of fun for me. And it did. Like I said, it felt good. First draft really kind of just knocked itself out pretty quickly, which always feels good. It's not where it needs to be, but it feels good. And sometimes I have a lot of those. In as do you do a lot of writing too? Are you a
I'm so into this job. It's like hard to, but I wish I did. Yeah.
It is, and so sometimes I'll write a scene, and then I got nothing to go around it,
Yeah.
and so that's part of why I think I got out of it too, is because I really had this other idea, and it just wasn't working as a movie, but or as a screenplay. But I really like to write this style. It's fun for me. It's just quick. It moves fast. I like action, um, and so it's kind of it just works well for I think the way my brain works.
So then you started setting out the festivals just to get a reaction, just to see what it was like, what was going to happen.
Yeah, and since I hadn't been kind of in the game for a little while, things definitely changed in that time. And so I my first script that I told you I worked with the that was found by these other producers that asked me to do this other writing was actually found on Trigger Street. I don't know if you remember that.
Yep. Yeah. Is it still around or?
It's not. I think
Okay.
that went the way of Kevin Spacey. So that was his
Oh
project.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, 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 yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I
I know
think
there was
that went
one
that
that
way.
one Coppola did and then one Spacey did. Yeah, okay, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And so I sort of just started looking around to see how do I even get really what I wanted was feedback to see
yeah.
if I had anything. And saw, that it seems like the festival and just some of these I got onto International Screenwriter Association, ISA, and was able to find some festivals and got some really nice feedback and um, got a little traction there. I'm quarterfinalist in another, and so just the feedback was really helpful because right now I'm not in my screenwriting groups that I was before, and you know how valuable that is. And so I tried a few out and have gotten some good feedback, and I'll probably start pitching it here pretty soon. Is where I'm at.
You're gonna start pitching to like, do you have an agent or I'm just curious, like
I don't have an agent. There's a pitch fest. I have done. Some of the I'm not going to any of the pitch festivals right now, just because of the timing and calendar. But I've done those. Those are great. I have a good time with those. They're a lot of fun when you get to sit down and do a face to face pitch. So I might, we'll see where this lands in the next few months and get signed on a couple of those that are coming up next summer. They usually do those in the summer, but there's an online one, so I'll probably just pitch it just to practice pitching too. Like it's nice to set some of those up and just practice your pitch and hear how people respond. And I guess what I've really gotten used to is I'm really good at being told no. And I know how much better I get at both selling and writing when I'm told no. So I put myself into those situations as much as possible.
Gotcha. And you're, correct me if I'm wrong, in the blog, according to the blog interview, you're a principal, you're a school principal?
I am, yes, I am.
Do you, because we're doing this in the middle of the day. Aren't you, shouldn't you be at school right now?
I am on my break. I'm on my break yet, so don't get me in trouble. Like, come on now. So no, we have our break, so that's why I got to take a little bit of time.
Gotcha. No, because I have two kids, and so they're in two different schools. So I see the how
Yeah,
difficult it is to be a principal, and
it's a lot of fun.
how crazy some of the parents can be.
I'm not going on record saying that with you. No, they're wonderful. They're
Yeah,
great. Um,
and
and how are your kids?
9 and 6. Is
Oh, those are fun ages.
Yeah,
Yeah. It looks like my internet's trying to go out. Is it
yeah. Your net's
giving you a
trying to
hard
go out.
time?
Maybe because we just talked about school, and your school is just like
It's probably what it is. You got me in trouble. Yeah. No, 9 and 6 are great age. They are a lot of fun. They are very curious and have lots of questions at those ages. So I love them.
all right. So it says your bandwidth is low. I got to ask you one more question. Hopefully, I can answer it.
Okay.
On your blog interview, you said that what I asked you what movie you watched the most times of your life, and you said for popcorn fun you watch John Wick and Underworld, but your favorite one-off movie is. Do you remember what you said?
Yeah. True Romance.
True Romance. That's such a great. I
Yep.
can't believe, yeah, because I have such a.
Yeah.
That was my second date movie. If I was dating somebody, I would sit down with the second date and watch that movie with them, and then it would be a
It's
good litmus test if they can handle it or not.
exactly. You're like either we're compatible or we're not. You like this or you don't. I love it. And it's one of my favorite movies. It's just so interesting and different and well done and well written. I mean, he's a great writer. I love Tarantino.
Tarantino, yeah.
Just so good. And I think again, why do I like to write? I like that kind of stuff. And so it's just and it's I love Rosanna Arquette's character in that. She's so good. And so I just love that movie.
Yeah, there's some great characters in that movie, like Bronson Pinchot's character. Like
Yep.
Lee is like fantastic. The whole standoff at the end. Obviously,
Mm.
cameos by Brad Pitt, right? So
Right, right. Yeah, he's where he finally was getting out there and getting known. No, there's just so many good, and they're just each serve such an authentic purpose in the movie. And
yeah,
yeah, he's just so good. And so I love, and that one is my favorite of his. Sometimes, I don't love all of his movies that much, but that one just resonates. So
so
always,
Tarantino didn't direct it; he just wrote it, right? So yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes. So
Tony Scott directed it. Yeah, yeah,
but yeah, so that was a
yeah,
fun movie, and
yeah,
that's one of my favorites. And but I love the others, and I guess you probably see that a little bit in my writing. I'm a
yeah,
big
yeah.
John
Totally, yeah.
Wick fan.
Yeah,
So
no, that's what you do. Like this is I think why this script is standing out, and like reading it, it's a really great script, and because all the characters got have their own unique personality. Like they're, it's they can't be fully developed, of course, because your main character, but they all have their own distinct kind of persona, if that makes sense.
I I hope so. That's what I'm going for. That's what I'm refining right now. So it's good to hear you say that because
Yeah,
that's the goal, and that everybody sort of serves a little bit of a different purpose. And but ultimately really gets to examine, like I said, this idea of what do we do when somebody doesn't agree with us at the core, and
yeah.
how do we treat those that don't um, and how does that look? So that's kind of what's at the core of it. But I figured Christian nationals and werewolves, like in the middle of a Montana blizzard. I was like that, if I want conflict, I'm going for it.
But you made it, just to finish it off, is that what made it great is that they're both toxic. They're both dysfunctional. They're not,
Very.
you're not like saying, oh, this side is good, this side is bad. There's
No,
dysfunction in everything.
no, I wanted that too, because I think that idea of like one is bad and one is good doesn't work well, right?
Doesn't
Like,
work now, but I think, but because that's the world that we live in. Everybody's on one side, right?
right.
Yeah.
And we all have our demons, I guess, too, right? Like everybody has something that they've got. So I wanted that too. I didn't want anything that was glaringly good, there's a couple of them that I think are kind of glaringly bad, but my goal was that everybody had a little more depth than that. So I hope that's coming through.
Yeah. Your husband just made a cameo in the background.
Yeah, he does. He comes through every once in a while. It's his 15 minutes right there.
All right. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I guess you have to go back to school and hang out.
I'm off. I'm off. I'm off.
All
Got a
right.
break.
Yeah.
No, I really appreciate you taking some time. Thanks for doing this work too. I think it's great that you're highlighting some of the stuff that goes on.
Yeah.
Um,
It's a
so
great script. So I wish it the best. I think it's on its way. So you're back in the game.
well, I appreciate it. Yeah, it's fun to be back in the game. So hopefully we'll get to talk again sometime.
Hopefully soon. Thank you so much.
All right, have a great